ready.
All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Ken Hall. I'm the Personnel and Wellness Deputy Chief for Mesa Fire and Medical Department. We're glad you're joining us tonight. We're here to talk to you tonight about Mesa Fire and Medical's recruitment that's coming up here. And we want to talk to you more about why we would like you to choose Mesa Fire and Medical. So I want to start off by saying thank you very much for joining us. And before we get started, I would like to introduce you to the team that's here today that will be doing the hiring and promotions process. So before we get started there, I want to start off by introducing our HR analyst, Nicole Fazio. She's going to be here tonight as well. She's helping us answer some questions. And then we have some support staff over from personnel that the camera's on right now. I have Linda over there, Michelle, Megan, George, and let's not forget our producer, Carolyn, that's putting all this on with George. And then we'll go ahead and bring it back here again. And I'm going to transfer this over to Mike Guardado. Mike Guardado is our recruitment and promotion specialist. He's going to go over some great information about how to apply for the job, some of the benefits and some of the perks of working in Mesa. So thank you for your time again. It looks like we have a great audience that's already joined us, and we're looking forward to this event. Thank you. Mike's going to come in now.
Thank you, Chief Hall. All right, exciting times here. We got a test coming up. Probably going to mention it multiple times, but February 15th, it's next Tuesday.
Coming up quick.
It is. We just, our objectives for this event is basically to prepare you so that you are fully informed on the process, right? Every year we have people that go through the application process and kind of miss things. And we just don't want that to happen, because if you don't fill out a successful application, you're automatically taken out of the process.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we want this to be helpful and informative for you. It's all going to be available after the event. So if you want to go back and rewatch anything, that could be a great resource as well.
Yes. So we just have a couple things to cover. I'm so glad you met our support staff, because we are so much more than just responding on fire trucks. There's a lot of people behind the scenes that help us out. And of course, we're talking about our personnel division, but we also have people in our resource division, our mechanics, our fire prevention. So, to make this whole department run, it takes a lot of people to do that, and we don't often get to see them. So I'm glad we just took the time to introduce them. So with that being said, I'm going to just cover a couple basic things. First off, if you're not familiar with the Teams app and you're on a phone, the best thing is to go into that landscape view so that you see the full presentation, almost kind of tilting it sideways. And this is interactive, so we want you to ask questions along the way. They're here for a reason. They're going to be responding to your questions. And at times, if it's kind of pertinent to everybody, then we're going to go ahead and broadcast that, and we'll answer those questions live. So you're in that landscape mode. There's a question mark on your top right-hand corner of the screen. You can go ahead and press that, and that'll allow you to do a live chat, so you can participate that way. Again, feel free to ask questions. This event will be recorded, and it'll be posted to our Mesa Fire webpage, and you'll be able to access that. Also know that if you got to step away and come back, you can also rewind the presentation with the scroll on the bottom of the screen. So just a few things to keep in mind. So getting started, our objective today is we have people from out of the state, right? They're interested in our fire department. So we're going to do some education on what Mesa Fire has to offer, how our department operates. And then we're going to go through our recruitment process. So from beginning to end, what that looks like. Again, we want you to be successful here. So we just want to share as much information as we can so that you can do that.
For those who may have tested before in the past, Mike, we are doing some things a little bit differently here. So we'll introduce some of those things, including some virtual testing, things to make it easier for candidates, especially if you are out of state. And so we'll touch on those as well.
Awesome. So again, we're going to have another broadcast. So we're going to have another broadcast March 3rd. So our focus today is really a department overview, and then really getting into our process, and then really taking some time to go over that application. And Nicole here is going to be going through that in detail, real time too. So you'll have some good information there.
Sounds good.
All right, let's get started. So Mesa, Arizona. Mesa, Arizona is in the Phoenix metro area. We're actually the 35th largest city in the country. As a comparison, there's over 19,000 cities. So we are a fairly large city. And we're not just large in the amount of people that live here, but also in size. You know, we're a West Coast city, 133 square miles. So there's a large area that we have to cover as a fire department. Over 500,000 residents. We have a lot of winter visitors that come in during the winter months because our weather's so great here, right? So that population fluctuates, and we're a diverse population. Okay, so recently we just opened up the Asian district within the city of Mesa. It's on our west side of town there, so we're proud of that. And yeah, we just got a lot of different types and groups of people living here, and that's exciting for us, right? Our major industries. So our major industries are technology, healthcare, and education. Talking a little bit more about technology, the southeast part of our city is our technology corridor, and we're just inviting businesses down to set up shop here in the city of Mesa. And right now we have Apple working down there, Facebook, Amazon, and these are campuses. These are large industries. And then we also have Boeing. You might be familiar with Apache helicopter. They manufacture that in Mesa as well. And then it goes along with healthcare, right? We have a lot of hospitals and medical things because we do have a portion of an aging population. And then education, from universities down to the public school systems. So that's kind of the major industries. Lots of small businesses. Is kind of exciting place to live.
Some big names, a great place to live and work.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, it's a great place to live, great weather. So Mesa Fire and Medical. So a little bit about our department. We have 28 ALS units. So ALS is advanced life support. So we have paramedics, 2 paramedics on every unit, 2 paramedics and 2 EMTs. We have 4 people on a crew, and that's our minimum staffing. So if we go down to 3, we put a 4th person in there, whether it's through our rover pool, that they're just there for vacancies, or if it's overtime, right? Because that's important that we have those 4 people on the crew. We're a busy department, over 68,000 calls last year. And so working here in Mesa Fire, you're going to have a lot of opportunity to gain experience and run those calls, right? And be able to impact people's lives in a positive way.
So you're not going to be bored in this type of career.
You're not going to be bored. You're not going to be bored. And this is not the type of career that you're going to be bored. So 84% of our calls are medical, right? Our name, Mesa Fire and Medical. And the reason why we feel it's so important to, distinguish that is because that's primarily what a firefighter does here in Mesa, right? So we really take a lot of interest and care in our EMS delivery because it starts with us and it ends with us, right? There's no other agency within our city that takes over medical care from us unless we transfer it over.
That's a really interesting fact that some folks watching may not have known. I came from out of state myself, so I know I was very surprised to see that it's actually the majority of the calls are medical in nature and not just firefighting. So it's a very dynamic career, a lot of opportunity to get experience in all kinds of areas, not just firefighting.
So who is Mesa Fire Medical? Continued. We're a modern fire department. What does modern mean? Well, modern is we're not caught up in tradition, right? So if there's new ways to do things, we're interested in learning and how to do things better, right? It's not just about our equipment that we use, although we will have the first all-electric fire truck.
Wow.
Yeah, so we have that on order. It's not with us yet, but the first all-electric fire truck. And also about our how we deliver our service. I talked about EMS. We were one of the first agencies that used rapid sequence intubation. So that's RSI, those medications we carry. So when we come across somebody that can't protect their airway, we can actually perform procedures in the field like you would get in an operating room, right? And just kind of take over your breathing effort. Ventilators we carry on our some of the equipments that we carry. So we're very innovative, and like I say, we try to stay modern. But most important, we're modern in how we take care of our members. Okay, so what does that mean? We have a wellness captain, and basically their role is just to look out for the health and wellness of our members. So cancer screenings, right? Just things like yearly physicals, right? Mental health with a peer support captain. So those are the things that we try to stay modern with. Another thing is I kind of mentioned cancer, and it has come up. You might have seen things in the news, but we're very innovative in that way too. And what we're doing things to cut that risk down, right, is to issue every firefighter 2 sets of turnouts. Okay, we have policies in place where you go through a decon procedure at the scene of a fire to get those contaminants off you, and then also to keep you out of service until you go back to the fire station and go through a full decon. And again, just lessens our risk, right? Something that we're aware of, and we're making that effort to deal with. And then over the 25-year career, you're going to see things that might bother you a little bit, right? I mean, it's just the nature of the job. But again, we have positions as a peer support captain and mental health professionals that are working with us so that if we do have any struggles along our career, that we have that help available to us.
Looking out for our people.
Exactly. We're diverse. Our population is diverse, right? And also our members are diverse. But I'm going to just take a little bit of time here to just encourage people, that minorities out there, we need more of you to apply with us. And the data shows us is that it's not like minorities are not doing well in our process. It's just that they're not putting in. Right.
If you don't come into play, then you won't be in the game, right?
Exactly. So this is a career for you. It has a lot to offer. And again, we just want to extend that invitation to you. And why that's so important is it just allows us to better relate with our citizens out there. We can understand different cultures, and diversity goes more than just ethnic backgrounds and so forth, but it's just life experience, right? People coming from different life experience. This makes us a stronger organization.
And this is an entry-level position. So also on that diverse front, you don't have to have firefighting experience, medical experience. You can come from all walks of life, different work experience, or even no work experience, as one of the things we're going to touch on, the minimums later. Just 18 years of age and a high school diploma, no work experience. So we're looking for that diverse background, and people can bring lots of different things to this career and be successful.
Right. Like I had mentioned, there's 4 people on a truck. And we get a 911 call, and we have 4 minds to think through that problem, right? Excuse me. And we have 4 different physical ability levels, right? So to perform and accomplish our job tasks. So that is important to us. We're also data driven. Again, we try to be fiscally responsible in all the decisions that we make. And so being data driven is putting units where we need to put them, responding to calls in a certain manner so that it's most efficient, is being data driven. But one of the things that really stand out to me being data driven is recently we had some EMS training, right? And we were kind of reviewing how we perform on calls. So I'm going to use a cardiac arrest, for example. We have a cardiac arrest and we use our 12 lead monitors and we put them on these patients. And all that monitor is collecting data, and it's tracking our CPRs, our compressions, right? Our rate of our compressions, the depth of our compressions, when we deliver our shocks, how we deliver our medications. And that data is actually sent to our EMS division, who takes a look at that data and just kind of says, hey, there's some areas we need to improve on, or you guys did a great job. And how that all comes into play and how we deliver that customer service is basically, hey, look, maybe you guys spent, you had more than a 10-second pause, and you guys out there that have your CPR card know that we want to minimize those interruptions because it affects the outcome of our patients. And so we can use that data to do a better job. And it might be, well, that's a little overkill, and you're talking about how fast your compressions were, right? But if it's your family member, you want to give them the best chance that they have in survival. And of course, that's important to us too. So that's how we use that data to do a better job. The other thing is that we're fair. So I want you to know that it doesn't matter who you know on this department, right? You're going to have to perform through the testing process just like anybody else. Nobody gets any preference, with one exception. That is our veterans out there. We do have veterans points. So if you're a veteran and you're interested in putting in with us, and obviously they are because you're in, then you do, and we have veterans points, and we'll be talking about that in a little bit.
And also disabled persons or disabled veterans. So there'll be a lot more information about that and how that applied later in the process.
Awesome. So again, it's a fair process. Everybody has an equal shot on getting this position. So we encourage you to, put an application in, of course. And then we're also inclusive. These are words we've been hearing a lot lately, but I think it is important to mention because I had a conversation with the fire chief just a couple weeks ago, and she was telling me, I want every member that comes to work here to feel like they're a part of this organization, and it's basically their home away from home. Because we do have a process, right? We're going to test your physical ability level. We're going to test your intellect through the written process, your communication through an oral board. and then you'll get a psychological background if you move along in the process. So when you arrive here at Mesa Fire Department, you do belong here. So, but it goes a little bit more than that, further than that too, Nicole. So being inclusive is that you have a say in this department. We have teams and committees that goes down to the uniforms you wear, the apparatuses we drive in, the new tools we're trying to incorporate. So it really does, you know, take a village, so to speak, to make this thing run. And it's nice that we have that input in our department.
Absolutely. So Mike, I think we got a couple questions coming in already. You want to
Okay.
take a look at some of those?
What do we got?
All right. So we have a question about if I currently work as a firefighter at another agency, it could be in Arizona or another state. Do you have a lateral process, or would I come in with any type of seniority, or how would my pension crossover work?
That's a great question. And we've had a lateral program in the past. It has been some years, but currently there are no lateral programs. So
Someone would come in if they were selected the academy, just like anybody that didn't have prior experience.
exactly. You could have been a company officer at another department, and you're going to have to go through the fire academy, and then you're going to start out as a firefighter.
Be for the Mesa way and that experience.
Exactly.
I do believe we do have the pension crossover opportunities depending on where it comes from. So that could be something where you do maintain years of service for that purpose, though.
You do. So if you worked in Arizona as a firefighter and you're in the public safety retirement system, then those years would transfer with you. So let's say you put 5 years in another city in Arizona. Well, you'd only have to do 20 years in Mesa because you'd meet that 25-year requirement. So, but there is no, if you're coming from another state, your years of service don't transfer there, and unfortunately, that's just the way it is.
Okay. And I think a somewhat related question: if someone already has their firefighter 1 and 2, would they still need to do an academy? Probably for that same reason.
Yeah. So again, our academy is more than just teaching you how to be a firefighter, and that is one of our main objectives there. But it's also teaching you how we deliver our EMS care within our organization, right? And then just how our department operates, how our city operates. So our academy is a lot more than firefighter 1 and 2. We do offer that at the end. We'll state certify you firefighter 1 and 2. And if you have that already, you don't have to go through that testing process. So I guess that's one benefit. But you'll still have to go through the academy.
And then we do have a question that came in asking about if there's a study guide for the written test, which some folks may already know from previous experience. That's part of our process is a written test. And so we'll be touching on that in a lot more detail with our next presentation, which will be March 3rd, right?
March 3rd.
So we will cover that information at a later date for what the written test will entail. Tonight's really just focusing on the department and the application process.
And it is. And we would love to talk about everything tonight, but we're really trying to keep your interest. You know, your time is valuable too. So an hour and a half is our time frame that we're working with. And again, we just want to make sure that you're successful in your application process and you're taking our written test, and we'll address it at that time.
Sounds good. All right, we'll carry on.
Okay. So we're talking about inclusive. We also incorporate inclusive design. So again, we want everybody to be successful here. We're not, you could be the strongest and the fastest and the tallest and top performer in all these different categories, but really we're talking about diversity and we need a mix of people, right? And so to make you successful here, we're trying to design our equipment so that it's easy to use for everybody. And here's some examples. So on the left is our traditional design. We have units still out in service that have this design, but our new design is more inclusive. So on the picture to the left, you'll see our tool compartment and how they're fastened within that compartment, and we have pins there. Well, somebody that's 5'5" might have a problem getting to that axe because that pin's just a little bit out of reach.
Shorter, Mike. I probably have a harder time with that.
Okay. So again, we want you to be successful in your job task, right? We don't want you to be limited by the way we design our trucks. So incorporating inclusive design, there's an example there on just to the right. You'll see how our tool compartment is kind of at shoulder level, so people can kind of reach in there, and height isn't such a factor anymore, right?
Sounds good.
And then also our supply line, so our 5-inch supply lines located on the back of the truck. Engine 218, you can see that yellow hose there, and a little bit out of reach. You got to step up on the tailboard to get to it, and you might fall off. Things get exciting on a fire scene. So our new equipment is a lot more accessible to everybody and a lot safer to do. So again, we're just trying to be innovative and be modern. to make the job available for everybody, really. Like I said, we have a qualification process, and if you get that through that process, you deserve to be here. We're also an all hazards department. And what does
that mean?
Yeah, it is. Basically, somebody calls 911 in the city of Mesa, and we're going to be able to handle your emergency. So it could be a house fire EMS call. It could be a technical rescue call. So somebody's, you know,
Car goes into the canal.
yeah, car goes, a water rescue, or confined space, or somebody stuck on the side of a building. There's a lot of examples like that, or a hazmat call, right?
Wow.
In industry, you know, maybe we got a hazmat spill, but those are all things that we can handle internally. We're fortunate for those out of state and not familiar with our departments here, but we have an automatic aid system. It's a regional system. So while we do have the tools to get everything started, if we need resources, it's just a radio request away, and then we just get resources from our neighboring cities. So almost unlimited, if you will. So it's a good place to work to be a firefighter in. But we have other opportunities for you: a tactical medic program, a bike team, MMRS, and that's Metropolitan Medical Response. And those are a fleet of tractor trailers.
Wow.
Yeah, the fire department tractor trailers, right? But actually, these are 200 patient modules. So if we have a natural disaster, okay, or any kind of event where we have a lot of injuries, anywhere in the state, Mesa mans these units, and we'll send this equipment out so that we can help our neighbors throughout the state on these type of incidents. So it's kind of a cool thing to be a part of. And most importantly, we've been talking about the 25-year career. Over the course of a 25-year career, you're going to want to keep things new and interesting, right? And these are some opportunities for you. So you can still be a firefighter. You don't have to promote up. There's other opportunities. You can be on the bike team, be a firefighter. You can be on the technical rescue team, be a firefighter, as well with any other ranks. It's just more things that you can be involved with. So
it sounds like, Mike, if you had a career with Mesa Fire, it's not going to be your average boring desk job 9 to 5. It sounds like it could be a pretty cool career, a lot of different directions.
There's a lot of things, you know, and a lot of this stuff requires training. So there's a lot of training involved. And so it's important that when you come here, you know that you're always going to be learning something,
and
right?
Supported by the department.
Exactly. Some of the equipment, we are known for our white trucks. We're proud of that. We stand out, right? So someone might say, well, fire trucks are supposed to be red. Well, if you grew up in the city of Mesa, fire trucks are supposed to be white, right? So it goes both ways. But we have ladder companies. If you're assigned to a ladder company, you'll get you have to go through a ladder certification process because they do have different job responsibilities. And again, and that's just kind of taking care of our members so they're successful in their mission. And ladder companies do things like extrication, roof ventilation, and things like that. The squad, so I talked about technical rescue and hazmat. We have these squads, has no pump, no hose. It's all just a big toolbox to handle these special type emergencies, because not everybody on the department has that level of training. So that we send these people to a 200-hour class, as additional training, and they have the specialty in that area. And yeah, when they have these calls, they call our team, we go respond to it. We also operate medical response units. We have 2 in the city of Mesa, and those are 4-person crews as well, 2 EMTs and 2 paramedics, and they're designed to help with the call volume of our most busiest stations, right? So the crews do appreciate that. It kind of lightens their call volume in the day. They have a 12-hour schedule. We'll be talking more about that later. And it's also that being data driven, like making decisions, good fiscally responsible decisions, so that you know, we can kind of do things and still, you know, support our customers out there. We do have our own transportation division. That is a civilian side of things.
Pretty new to the department.
Yes, it's a new division. So you don't go through a fire academy. If you're on a transport unit or a medic unit, you're just responsible for taking people to the hospital and continuing Mesa care. So these are Mesa employees and paramedics and EMTs, and we, you know, maintain the care of that patient. Our engines, that's the primary of our fleet, and also our foam trucks. We have 2 airports in the city of Mesa, Falcon Field and Williams Gateway. And again, just something new you can learn and be a part of.
So Mesa's got a little bit of everything, it sounds like.
A little bit, we have a lot to offer. That's what we're here to tell you about. Currently, we're at 21 fire stations. We talked about being a busy fire department, right? Over 68,000 calls. So but we do have 21 fire stations. Some are busier, some are slower. Over the course of that career, you want to gain that experience. You're going to want to be at those busy stations, right? But as you get further along in your career, it's a little harder to get up at night, recover the next day. There are stations that you can go to that have a slower call volume. So all our positions are seniority bid. So in our stations are seniority bid. You're actually bidding a unit. And so when you want to move along and move to a slower stations with time on the job, you have the opportunity to do that. So nothing's assigned, it's bid, except for your probationary time, that is assigned. So we have station 22 that we're looking for to fill out of this academy. So that'll be some job numbers there. And then we also have stations 23 and 24. We all know with the construction delays and supply chain issues, we're hoping that we get that done as soon as possible, but that might be at the tail end of our process, but it's a possibility.
So keeping expanding then.
Yes, exactly. We're a growing city, growing department.
I think we've got a couple more questions coming in.
Okay.
We'll pause for a couple of those.
Sure.
So we have a question. If I become a Mesa firefighter, do I need to reside in the city of Mesa or can I reside somewhere nearby?
Great question. And we know that some departments require that. Mesa Fire Medical does not. So you can actually be employed here and live anywhere you want to, as long as you're here at 7 o'clock in the morning to fill your shift. The choice is up to you. And we do have a lot of members because we do have mountain communities close by. It does get a little warm here in the summer. It does get, I'm gonna say it gets hot here in the summer, right? No, I'm just saying. And but so we have mountain communities close by within 2 hours. There's people that are living in Prescott, Payson, Sholo, and they just commute in and out of work.
And that probably works well with the schedule and the type that I know you're going to touch on a little bit later as well.
Oh yeah.
That kind of naturally lends itself to that.
Yes, it does.
So we got one other question. Is there anything I can put on my resume to stand out more? And so that's a question we'll probably touch on a little bit more later when we get into the application process.
Okay.
So we will cover that. It is a great question and we'll address that a little bit later on.
Okay, great. So our work schedule, we talked a little bit about this, but we work a 24-hour schedule and a 12-hour schedule, right? When you first get introduced to the department, you'll go through an academy. After you're released from the academy, you'll go on to rookie rotations through your probationary year, and you will be on that 24-hour schedule. But after you leave probation and you want to try something different, you know, let's just say maybe you're happy with it, right? And you want to stay on it. And our 24-hour schedule, before I move on, we work a 3-4 Kelly. Okay, so as an example, from Monday through Sunday, the 3-4 Kelly is 3 days on, 4 days off. Those 3 days on are separated by a day off in between. So typical week, you'd be at work Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Tuesday and Thursday you'd have off because it's between shifts. And then you'd have 4 days off after that. So you'd have Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. So it's a great schedule. It's only 10 days a month, right?
Making that sound pretty enticing.
Well, like I said, it lends a lot of opportunities. So if you have hobbies that you like to do, spending time with the family, although you are away for 24 hours, right? Family can come visit you at the station and things like that. But if you have a second career and you have maybe a side business, a lot of our members do that, and that allows them time to do that because there's 20 days on the month that belong to you.
I don't know. I think I might have to leave HR and come over to fire. You're making it sound pretty good.
Turns out applications are opening February 15th. Okay. The 12-hour schedule. So as time goes on in your career and things change and maybe you have kids at home, you want to be home at night, you can bid a 12-hour schedule. So that's a little flexibility that I didn't have when I first came on. It was only 12 hours, 24-hour schedules. So that's a little added benefit as well. And they work 3 days on, 3 days off. They come on at 7 o'clock in the morning and then they're off at 7 o'clock in the evening. Okay, so you know a little bit about the city, a little about our department and the job, but let's talk about how we're going to compensate you.
Very stable topic.
Right. Sometimes I know when I first started testing, I'm like, I don't care how much they pay me. This is what I want to do, you know, but it is important. So we're going to pay you to go to the Firefighter Academy. As a firefighter recruit, you're going to be making about $50,000 a year. Okay, we recently just got a 5% pay increase. Okay, so that was helpful. And then I just have the ranges here of the different pay scales for the rank. So firefighter at $53,000 to $74,000. We're just kind of rounding. Engineer 77,000 to 84,000, and then captain 88,000 to 97,000. And
these are just the base salaries we're talking
base
here.
salaries. And like I said, to me, respectable income, right? I mean, you should do well here and make a good living while working for the fire department. But again, like Nicole said, those are base salaries. We're going to pay you extra to go to paramedic school, and that's something you can test for after being off probation. We're going to pay you for that, an extra 10,000 added to your annual salary. So these are annual numbers.
Great opportunity.
Mm-hmm. If you decide that you want to learn more and do something different, you want to go to TRT school, which is a 200-hour class, we take you off shift, put you through school.
Rescue you were talking
yeah,
about.
yeah. And then hazardous materials, and also our ARF team, which they're responsible for aircraft firefighting. But we send you to school, you get checked off on that, and then we're going to pay you an extra $4,200 for that as well. So you see how the salary keeps creeping up, right?
So you can really seek out opportunities with your career, either promoting to these different positions or taking advantage of those opportunities for certification pay.
Sure, and it's based on seniority. So the more years you have in, more opportunity that you'll have in getting those positions. So, and this does not include holiday pay. It does not include, of course, overtime, but it does not include FLSA pay. And FLSA is kind of unique to the fire service. It's kind of built in overtime because we do work a 56-hour work week. And so it's, again, it's more compensation. It's not included in here. And then also if you're bilingual, another chance. Yeah. So again, lots of opportunity to make a decent living there. Our benefits. So we talked about the 25-year retirement, right? It's a defined pension benefit. So that means at the end of your 25 career, you're going to get a percentage of your salary, and that's going to be paid to you monthly.
For the rest of your life.
For the rest of your life.
In the private sector these days.
Right.
So I know a lot of folks might not be thinking about that if you're early in your career, it might seem far away, but just take a moment to really think about that. Having that guaranteed income, it's not dependent on the stock market going up and down. We're all familiar with that. And having that money come in monthly for you and your family for the rest of your life. Pretty cool.
That is huge, huge. Okay, but there's also other benefits. So that is something that the city does, and you do, and you just don't quite see it. It's taken out of your paycheck in deductions. But there's also other things you can be involved with, like a 457 deferred compensation plan.
So some of you might have heard the term 401k.
Yeah.
That's in the private sector. That's the public sector equivalent.
Okay, yeah, and that's another way to save for retirement, to add, to the money that you're going to be collecting. And again, this is kind of important because when I was 26, it's like, oh yeah, that's great. But now I'm actually looking at retirement here pretty soon.
Came up pretty fast.
Yeah, it does. And it's like, I am so glad and so fortunate that I have this benefit package because I won't have to work another day unless I wanted to, right? Because I've taken advantage of these benefits. But we have the vacation and paid sick leave. That's pretty common. But our medical and dental and vision is actually pretty good. And
absolutely. I mean, if you're coming from the private sector, you have experience, you may be familiar with the premiums could be so high and you're like, where is this going? We actually have options for $0 premiums at Mesa.
We do.
So for you and your family, it's pretty good.
And there's some information on the city webpage, but we have plans that you can choose from a copay, an 80/20, and there's that 50/50 option. It doesn't cost you any money. It's like out of your paycheck, right?
It's still a pretty good plan. It's not a high deductible plan like you might be familiar with. So like Mike said, there's a lot of information on our website if you want to really get into the details of that. But the bottom line is it's really comprehensive. Mesa wants to take care of its people.
Yes, they do. Another thing that I think is really awesome is we have our own wellness center for all City of Mesa employees. So you can go down and get a doctor visit done, almost like your primary care physician, if you will, your family doctor, where you can kind of go and see them and no cost to you. You just go schedule an appointment and see a doctor or PA.
And with that wellness center, it's really a big part of our overall wellness plan, which is a great plan that we have at the city for all employees, not just fire, but great incentives that you can get gift cards throughout the year for just keeping healthy, doing different kind of exercise events, doing classes on healthy eating, all kinds of things, fun things. Right now, we're in a citywide contest for the most steps that you can get and beating the city manager. And it's just really fun. The city is really committed to wellness, and Mesa Fire, of course, as well.
So good compensation, good benefits, another reason why this job is so appealing. So with all that being said, we're going to kind of get into the meat and potatoes of things. Who are we looking for? Well, we're looking for you. Like I said, we're looking for people from diverse backgrounds, different life experiences, different abilities, not just physically, but mentally, right? We just want to be a diverse workforce. It just makes us better, it makes us stronger. But talking about that just a little bit more, we're really looking for people that fit within our mission statement. And you can see our mission statement on the board right now. And our mission is to serve with care. So care is compassion, accountability, respect, and excellence. And of course, we have values listed in there as well. And if you see these qualities like, hey, I like to take my professionalism seriously. I continue to educate myself. I'm a positive team member. And you have these qualities, we're looking for you, right? But I really want to emphasize one of the things in care, and that is compassion, right? It's listed 3 times in our document here. And why it's so important is because we get this unique perspective as firefighters to go into people's private lives, right? And we're not there, we're there to help. We're
And
never there.
oftentimes on the worst day of their lives, what they're calling for, and how can you help to make that as least stressful as possible?
Exactly, right. And that's just showing that compassionate side of us and being empathetic and relating to the people and understanding we were called for help, right? So we're just looking for those people that are compassionate and are caring, right? All those good things. So this would be a great document for you to learn and see like, hey, that's how I feel. I fit within that mission statement.
We want, and I think we had a question come through in the meantime that was asking, how can I prepare, for something like the oral board? This would be a great way. We're looking for individuals who can look at our mission, see how they fit, as you just said, and then how could you apply that, say, in the interview process? How can you show us that you would demonstrate those values and fit with Mesa Fire? Right.
Like I said, the type of calls that we go on are not just fire and EMS, sometimes it's mental health, right? And it could be something very simple like a smoke detector going out, but it's 3 a.m, right? But again, it's just being compassionate, understanding that it's like, hey, look, we're considered the subject matter experts when it comes to all things fire. And if it's a smoke detector, we're going to take care of that. And we're not going to leave a bad taste in anybody's mouth because we didn't look like we're happy to be there, right? We got 15 minutes to interact with that individual and we want to leave them with a positive experience because that's why people love firefighters, Okay. So our requirements to apply, they're not much. Entry-level position.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
So just to get started, you need to be 18 years of age at time of application opening.
Yes.
Okay.
So again, that we'll touch on will be February 15th next week. So by that application begin date, you would need to meet these requirements.
Okay, perfect. High school diploma or GED is another one, and then a valid driver's license. So those are the 3 things that you need to submit a successful application, along with some few other details, but those are the only requirements. And then there's some certifications that you'll need to continue through the process after the written exam, and that is your EMT, Arizona EMT, and then a candidate physical abilities test or a CPAT, and that's going to be required at time of intern orientation. And our intern academy orientation is kind of the same thing, but will take place in May. So you have some time to get these things done. So we're going to talk a little bit about the EMT because, like, again, I know we have some people out of state that don't have their Arizona EMT, they don't know how to get it. Well, I just want to emphasize again that the EMT is not required to start the process. And our process is about 4-month process, right around in there.
Some time.
Yeah. So if you don't have it right now, I just want to encourage you, if this is a profession that you're interested in, or you know somebody that is interested in it, but doesn't have the certifications yet, you still have time. Now, you're not going to be able to go to a community college and get your EMT course, but there's other businesses out there that offer condensed versions. There's a 2-week program where you can get it. You go like 2 weeks straight. They feed you lunch and dinner there. They don't want you leaving because they're just getting all this information to you. And there's also 8 and 12-week programs. So that would still meet our window.
Absolutely.
There's still time. If you're out of state, your EMT certification will not transfer to Arizona. There's no reciprocity, okay? What you can do is if you're, let's say you're in Oregon, okay, you're in Portland, Oregon, and you have your EMT there. Well, you can, if you have your national registry, then you can use that national registry to come to Arizona and get your EMT certification. So that's a possibility. Now, you're not going to be able to call today and transfer because you're you have a national registry, and I'm like, I'm testing in Mesa, so I want to get that done ahead of time, because you actually have to live here.
Okay. That's something they could take care of after their offer and facilitate that once they live.
You can, and there's a time frame there, right? So we say Arizona EMT, but if you get a job offer, we're going to communicate with the Arizona Department of Health Services, let them know that you're going through an academy, and what they've done in the past, and they've given you a 6-month window. So they'll give you your EMT certification because you already had your national registry. They'll give you that 6-month certification, and that gives you time to set up residency and all that other stuff to come back to it.
So it sounds like now will be the time to just start researching some of those things. If maybe you're out of state or you have something else or you're in process, kind of get it planned out, but you do have some time. It's not tomorrow.
Exactly. And that's another good point, Nicole, is because really the subject matter experts and all things EMT certification and national registry is the Arizona Department of Health Services. Although we have knowledge about the process, we don't make the decisions. So when you want hard facts, you need to contact the Arizona Department of Health Services. The information is up there. You can take a screenshot. Again, this session will be recorded and you can refer back to that later.
And I think we do have some out of state folks joining us here tonight. So if you wouldn't mind commenting in the chat, we would love to know where our interest is coming from. We're trying to do outreach nationwide. So don't be afraid to say hi and introduce yourself out there.
That would be great. Okay, the next thing you're going to need in the testing process is that CPAT I was talking about. As a reminder, you don't need the CPAT to start the testing process, but you will need it later on. So when we have our intern orientation, that's when we require it, because we're going to have you do some physical things, and we just need to know that you're physically capable of doing the job.
Because it is a physical job at the end of the day.
Yes, it is. And I just want to let you know that CPAT, if you have one, we do accept them from out of state, but it has to be an agency affiliated with the IAFF, that's the International Association of Firefighters, and they're kind of the coordinating agency. So if you just got it from, let's say you were a volunteer at a department, right, and they put you through the CPAT course, well, it has to be affiliated with the IAFF and certified to them. Yeah. Otherwise, it wouldn't qualify. Okay. So.
And within the past 12 months of the intern orientation, so if that's May of this year, we'd be going back to May of 2021.
Exactly. Yeah. So again, we have that 12-month window. If you have your certification already and it's not going to expire before May, then you're good to go. And if you don't have it, there's still time, right?
Okay. Some of these photos look a little intense. It looks like pretty physical kind of test, but what would you say to somebody? Should they start working on that now? Are there things they could do to get themselves ready to pass to get the CPAT by then? For sure. So, firefighting is unique. It is a physically demanding job. We're wearing turnouts and carrying this gear around with us. It doesn't allow you to give off that body heat, as if you're working outside. And let's say you're athletic and you've kind of been that way your whole life, and that's why you're interested in the fire department. You just can't take that like, I'm going to go take this CPAT and I'm going to crush it. No, you have to prepare. So get knowledgeable on the process, talk to people that have taken it. Again, if you don't have it yet, there are some college courses. It's a 12-week program. That's a tight window for you maybe to go through the process for the next class to start. So National Testing Network actually has one, the only one that I know of in the Valley, where you can just sign up and go take your CPAT. So that's the resource. Videos out there and just talking to different people who've done it and other ways that maybe you could train outside or at a local gym and those kind of things too.
Right.
So bottom line, don't wait to the last minute.
Don't wait to the minute.
And don't anticipate that it's just easy to pass without.
No. And here's the deal. If you get to the intern academy, you are really looking at a job offer. You've made it deep into the process and you don't want to be able to participate because you don't have your CPAT by that time.
Good advice.
Okay, so our testing process. Real quickly, we're going to go through these. As applications, February 15th, virtual written. That's new to us this year. So the National Testing Network is who we chose to host our test for us. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. That's going to happen in March. Oral board interview will happen in April. Intern orientation is May. And then we're actually going to start our Firefighter Recruit Academy in August. So
we've got a pretty great timeline coming up, focusing on next week with February 15th. It's going to be here like that. And we
Right.
do hope all of you do apply. And like we said earlier, we will be having another session on March 3rd, which will cover some of these in much more detail. So
Yeah.
we'll kind of give a high level overview tonight, and then we're really going to focus the rest of the presentation on the application, because you need to have that to be successful first to get to the rest of it.
right.
And then we will have that session to give a lot more information and answer some more of those questions.
Okay. So we're gonna talk about all these really quick. Applications, we keep saying it. I'm sure you guys can repeat it back to me. It's February 15th. More importantly, opens at 8 o'clock in the morning. Okay.
Important, Mike.
It's important because I'm going to tell you, I might not have mentioned it, but applications have been down across the valley. So we thought we were immune to this worker shortage, but we're not. So there are a little down. But I'm going to tell you, this is a great career, right? So it's a rewarding career. It's going to give back to you. You feel like you're contributing to society. It's something that you're, I know my family is, proud of what I do. So, and then the recognition we get from the public, right? So it's a very desirable job, good benefits. And in the past, applications would close within days
Even
or hours.
sometimes.
And really, it used to be always hours. So we don't know when that's going to change, because it is a good profession and we anticipate that interest is going to drum up again. So you want to be prepared and get that application in as soon as possible. I'd mentioned we are using a national testing network, and I'm sure there's some viewers out there that have used them in the past.
Might be familiar with how that works.
Right, and they do have a process where you can apply through their website. Well, that is not going to be the case with our process. You're going to have to fill out an application with the city of Mesa. We're going to go over that. And that's one of your first steps. So you will not be able to fill out an application with the National Testing Network. We just want to emphasize that. Applications can be filled out with a mobile device, a computer, or tablet. So you have a lot of options. Just like I said, be ready to go. Don't let this opportunity pass you by, because we only test every 2 years.
Yeah, so it could be a short window. The bottom line is we don't know when it's going to close. So to err on the side of caution, just do it as soon as possible when it opens, and then you won't have to worry about it.
Exactly. Okay, our written. Written is the first time ever we're going to do a virtual test. We're actually pretty excited about that because it opens up the opportunity for a lot of people to apply. And of course, we want the numbers because we are looking for the best of the best,
Exactly.
right?
From across the country.
Across the country, exactly. So it's going to be a very convenient process. National Testing Network allows you to take it from home. You have to meet the requirements, right? And we'll have more information on that later. They have testing centers that you can take it at. So there's a lot more flexible than it used to be, because if you couldn't make the date in the past, you missed a test, and that was it. Yeah. I want to emphasize that if you're familiar with NTN, our test will be an invitation only. Again, not going through NTN. Our test dates are March 3rd through March 13th, and you'll be able to schedule that. So again, just blocking out time in your calendar so you're making sure that you're available to complete the process.
And what happens, Mike, you mentioned some people might be familiar with NTN,
Yeah.
or they've tested with other agencies. They may have taken this fire test before, maybe recently, and already have a score. What would that mean for them?
So if you've taken the test within the last year, you can, and you're happy with that score, you can actually transfer it. So you won't have to take another test. You can just transfer that score to the city of Mesa. But if you've taken that test within the last 3 months, that score stays with you. So you can't take it again. Right. So, and then if you decide to take the test again, because it's outside that 3-month window, you took it 4 months ago, and maybe you're not happy with it, you want to get a better score, just know you can do that. We're going to pay for the test. Right. So
more information will come in our next session.
More information. So that's kind of important to you guys out there. But your most recent score is the one that you're going to get. So if you scored not as well, you decide to take it again, that's the one that's going to stay with you. So again, more information to follow on that, just kind of doing a brief overview. Once we do the written, you schedule that. you did well, you're going to move along in the process. Our next step is the oral board. And that is kind of unique to the fire service. It's a 3-person panel. The people on those panels come from our units that are responding out in the field. So the ranks of captain, engineer, and firefighter are going to be the ones that are evaluating you. And that's important because these are the people you're going to be working with, right? Absolutely. So they're the most qualified to do that. It's highly encouraged that you really become familiar with that oral board interview, right? And we'll share information with you when you get to that part in the process. And there's groups out there that can help you, and we'll just be talking about that in just a bit here. There will only be one oral board too.
Yeah, so those of you who may have tested with Mesa or other agencies in the past and may be familiar with if there was a first round and a second round of interviews for this process in 2022, there will only be one round of interviews.
And I've had some questions from veterans, right, that are assigned and they're outside of the state and they can't leave their assigned solution. That's something that we want you to communicate with us early.
Active duty military type of situation.
Yeah, active duty. I know we worked with you in the past. So again, just communicate that early. Don't think you're out of the process because you're out of the state and you can't get to us for an oral board. We do like to work with our veterans. Okay, so you're doing well. You've done a great job on your written. You've passed that oral board, and now you're on to the intern orientation. And really, this is where we hire from, right? Because you can be a great test taker. You're well-spoken, but maybe you just don't work well with other people. And that is not possible here in the fire service. Because again, you're living with your workmates,
like
right?
A family.
It's like a family. So you have to be able to get along. You have to be able to follow instructions and all that good stuff. So we're going to evaluate all those skills at the intern orientation. So how that takes place. First off, it's hosted by the training division. So they're going to set all this up. It's going to happen over the course of 2 weekends, 2 consecutive weekends. And you get to pick the day that you go. So if you pick a Saturday, it'll be 2 consecutive Saturdays, 2 consecutive weekends.
Yep.
And or a Sunday, 2 consecutive Sundays. And that's how that plays out. It's not mandatory. But again, this is an important part of our process. We really get to see how you work with others, how you take instructions, and how you problem solve.
So
right?
more of a real world situation. It's not a written test behind closed doors. It's
Right.
not a formal oral board with no interaction. This is really getting to know the candidates and the candidates getting to know Mesa Fire and kind of finding more about that too.
Oh, yeah. So again, if you've made it to the intern orientation, you are looking at a very strong possibility of a job offer. So, you know, it's one of those things where you don't have to have firefighting experience, right? Because again, it's an entry-level position. We're going to train you up in the academy. You don't have to have EMS experience. We're going to train you up in the academy, and your training continues throughout your career. So don't worry about that if you don't have any job knowledge. We're gonna teach you that.
Mike, and I think we had a question about, things you could do to prepare for the interview. We have some general tips and suggestions about practicing and things like that get usually sent out later on if you're invited there. But that's a great point that, again, can't stress enough that this is entry level, no fire medical experience is needed, no work experience in anything actually is needed. And so if you make it to that stage of the interview and going through that, really, it's about demonstrating the qualities to show that you could fit in this type of career, not because you have a background in that.
Right.
So great way to prepare. And then that's really the purpose of how the intern fits in that as well.
Mm-hmm. And like I say in the beginning, it's a fair process. So everybody has an equal shot. Okay. All right. So that's kind of our testing process, and that's what it's going to look like. But we had talked about how it's a very competitive process. Right? You don't need to know anybody. And the truth of the matter is maybe you actually don't know anybody, right? But there's still help out there. I'm a resource available to you as a recruit and promotion specialist. So you can contact me. My information is going to be on our webpage, the recruitment webpage. You can find me there. But to get that interaction and the practice that you need to be successful, you need to really look at joining one of these affinity groups, right? And so we have United Black Firefighters, Valley Women's, Fire Vets, East Valley Hispanic Bomberos. And these are groups that are designed to help get you through the process, to familiarize yourself, to have a mentor, right? Somebody to talk to. And then they also do things that like improve your physical fitness or work on your physical fitness, getting through a CPAT, how to perform at an oral board. So these are really great groups. And you don't have to be a veteran to be part of Fire Vets, right? They accept everybody. They're there to help veterans, actually. You know, that's their focus group. Same thing with Valley Women's. They're there to help everybody, but their focus is in women's. And the Black Firefighter, same thing, and the Bomberos. So again, these are great groups to be involved with. There's a QR code, take a screenshot, and then come back and scan it later. If it's on your computer, go ahead and scan that so you have that information available to you. It's recorded. You'll be able to refer back to this page. But I also just want to take a minute to, as these are volunteer organizations, and these are firefighters that are working here and volunteering their time. So you utilize them, they're going to help you be successful. They have a great success rate, but give back, come back to these organizations and you know, volunteer your time to keep the process going.
Pay it forward.
Yes, exactly. Okay, so that's kind of our process and the things to do to kind of set you up for success. Next thing we're going to talk about is the application.
So I'm going to take that over again. I'm Nicole. I'm from the Human Resources Department from the city of Mesa. And so this is really my area about the application.
Just going to move this over here.
Ready. We got a couple questions that came in as we get this kind of set up here. Mike, if you want to read something.
Yeah, sure.
Out.
So what is the passing score to move on to each step in the process? That is a great question. And it really isn't a particular score, okay? Because we evaluate you, this new testing process that we're doing evaluates you in different areas, right? Human behavior, your reading comprehension, mechanical aptitude. So really, it's a combined score of all those scores coming together. And then they make for the written, yeah. And then the department, the fire chief makes a decision on how many people they want to take forward to the next process.
So that will be determined and communicated later, and we'll have more information on that in our next session as well. And then we have another question about resumes, it looks like.
Yeah, so is there anything I could put on my resume to stand out more? And really, like I talked about it being a fair process, no previous job experience, firefighting knowledge. So what we're really looking for, those minimum qualifications, first of all, anything that you might have done to prepare yourself for the job. And it just shows us that you're committed to the profession. This is something that you're really wanting to do. It's not something you thought about last night, you know, and you're there and you're like, hey, I think the firefighting job would be pretty cool. Not to say you couldn't get it and be successful, but it's that resume thing. And I don't even, do we include a resume in the application?
We actually will not. So I think that's kind of a two-part question about putting something on there to stand out, which we've kind of already covered, that it's entry level and not necessary. But the actual topic, the resume itself, I'll hit on a little bit. We're actually not even taking attachments like resumes and cover letters. It is such a high volume process. We're trying to make it as simple as possible for our candidates. And since there is no work experience necessary, it's just a basic application.
Right.
Which is what I'm going to cover.
And if I can say anything about like the resume and if that would give you any kind of advantage, really your resume takes place in your oral board interview.
Sure.
Because you're verbally expressing all the experience you've had and the things you've done to prepare.
Work, school, volunteer, your life experience.
Right, exactly. So that'll all come out in your oral board interview.
Those are great questions. Keep them coming in. We're happy to answer them as time allows, but I think right now we're going to go ahead and focus on the application process. So the purpose of this is really to show you what it looks like if you're not familiar with governmentjobs.com, which is the site that the city uses. And so a couple things on that. To get there, first of all, it's just our main website. It's mesaaz.gov, and you just scroll down here to where it says jobs. Okay, so that will actually take you to where it will be posted. So it's not actually there now. They're in alphabetical order. This will be where it is at what time, Mike?
It's going to be February 15th at 8 o'clock.
All right.
Okay.
So everyone's got that now as well. So that's where this will be. But we want to talk about, is there anything that someone could do ahead of time before then to be maybe more prepared and ready to go at 8 o'clock on Tuesday?
Yeah, like I said, in the past, this is what you had to do. And I would encourage you to do the same thing because, like, again, we don't know when things are going to change. We are, you know, I think we're a great department. Of course, I'm a little biased, but I hear that from a lot of other departments and other people that I've had interaction with in the position I currently occupy. So this is a great place to work. And if you're interested, you need to be prepared.
Okay, so one of the ways that you could do that is actually having your account on the governmentjobs.com site ready ahead of time. So if you already have one, signing in, make sure you know your login credentials, and then go take a look at all of your sections, which I'm going to show you in a moment because I actually did a sample one to show us. Make sure everything's up to date. Make sure, you know, if you moved maybe in the last year, you have a new address, your email changed, those kind of things. If you got a new job, you can update those as well. And if you don't have one at all, that's okay. I made this sample one last week. And so it's really quick and easy, and you would just go ahead and you can fill out all that information. So then on Tuesday morning, you're just going to sign in and hit apply, and all your information is there and ready to go. And it should only take you a few minutes.
Well, that
So-
kind of cuts down on the anxiety too, right? So you're not rushing in there to get it done, you know, yeah, taking some time to get it done correctly.
Exactly. So again, this is where it'll be, mesaaz.gov, and you click on jobs, and it will be
Okay.
here in alphabetical order on Tuesday. So for now, I'm just going to be showing a demonstration one. So we ask that you please do not go here and actually do an application. This is just for your benefit here this evening. So I'm going to click on that demo here. And so this will be exactly what it's going to look like though on Tuesday. So I'm not going to read through everything here because quickly scrolling, you can see there is a lot of information. So we're not going to cover that here tonight, but I want to ask you to please make sure to read that on Tuesday when you apply. It is really important, and we've kind of touched on a little bit that our process is different than in past years. So we don't want you, if you've tested with Mesa before, to just assume it's the same and you know it like the back of your hand. It is a little bit different, especially with the virtual testing, having with NTN versus on-site here. So there is a lot of important information, probably a lot of answers to some of the questions we've been getting as well. And that will all be on there for you. You can print it out and have that handy. Once you've read that over and you're ready to apply, you'll hit the apply button in the top right corner. And I believe I'm already signed in, so it took me in here already. But if you are not, you would just go ahead and sign into that account you already created.
Okay.
So pretty easy. So the site is very user-friendly. So I'm just going to go through this. So full disclosure, I'm a Disney fan, as you'll probably quickly find out. So I made up my fictitious application as Mickey Mouse here. So it's very easy to use. Over here on the left-hand side, you can see the tabs, okay? So all the sections, your contact information, work, education, and so forth. Each one has its own section you'll complete and can review it, and then you'll see a little green check mark here that'll let you know when it's been done. So again, since I already did mine ahead of time to be prepared for this, it has the mark already there, and you can see my name's there, my phone, my email address. I made sure they're good. If I'm one of those, like I said, that already had an account and maybe I haven't updated it in a while and I said, oh, I don't live there anymore, I live in California now, I could just hit edit and go ahead and change that.
Okay.
Pretty easy. So as far as the contact information, your phone number is important these days, as well as the email is the biggest thing. Okay. So why I want to touch on that, why the email is important, that's how all the communication will go to you throughout the whole process. So whether that's inviting you to take the test, if that is scheduling you for an interview, sending out a score for a process, everything's going to go there. So you can use a work, personal, whatever email you want to use. You just want to make sure that it is unique to you. So not one that you share with a spouse or family member. It should be unique to you. And also one that is easy for you to check, often, because we will send information often. And then lastly, just make sure there's no typos in it for that reason. You don't want to miss something important in scheduling and making sure you don't miss a deadline, right?
Okay. So you can actually meet the minimum qualifications and be good to go there. And then you can have a misspelled email and not receive any information. And so you basically,
you could miss out
by default because you never responded back.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. And that's what we don't want to happen. That's really one of the main reasons we're doing this presentation tonight. Some of the things that have maybe tripped people up in the past and then they couldn't even participate. And that's not what we want. We want to be as inclusive as possible.
Exactly.
Okay. So pretty easy. So I'll just go through quickly through the other sections here. It's a pretty simple application. So next is work experience. So again, this is entry level. So work experience is not required, but if you have that, then you can include it here. So very self-explanatory. I've got a couple sample ones there. It just asks you, the employer, how many hours a week, your dates that you were there, and what you did there. So pretty easy to fill out. And you could do add work experience here. If you have more to add, there's no limit. So you can put as much or as little as you need to have there for that part.
So is this some of the information that would be included if you were to create an account before the application opened?
Exactly.
So it would already be there. Okay.
Exactly. So you could do this and take your time all weekend. And then, like I said, on Tuesday, and you sign in and hit apply, it'll be quick and easy and you could be done in a few minutes.
Okay. Perfect.
All right, so moving on to the next part is education. So as Mike introduced, the requirement for education for Firefighter Recruit is a high school diploma or a GED. So you could note that on here if you've completed that. If you've completed some college or have graduated college or a graduate degree, you can also add those as well. Again, not required, but you can add as many schools as you need to there. Just need to have the high school or diploma or GED documented. Okay, so again, I think that was part of the question about the resume. Same thing with diplomas or other things. We're not taking attachments. So you're not actually, providing proof at this point that you graduated or took your GED. You're just listing it on here.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Then we have a section that's called additional, and this is where you could list things like certificates, any credentials you might have. So while the EMT, the CPAT, or paramedic type things are not required at the time of application, if you do already have them, we'd like to know that. So we have a spot for you to put that on here. You can put which license it is, when it expires, who it's issued by, pretty basic information.
Awesome. And that's actually a good point there too. So it's take kind of one less thing you have to do, but back on the EMT, your EMT has to be current through the entire process,
Yes.
right? So it can't, it was valid when you put in your application and now it's expired, in May in the intern academy.
At the time of the job offer.
Yeah, that would disqualify you. So you really got to stay on top of that.
Absolutely. All right. So then the next optional section we have is references. So this is a section where if you want to add any personal or professional references, you could list them here. We would not be contacting them at the application portion of the process. Reference checking is something that is done after the intern orientation when we're finalizing selections and preparing to make conditional offers, right?
Okay.
So that will be that opportunity where we would verify any employment references, anything that the department wants to confirm. And then I think one of the questions that we had gotten earlier was about, would we just call your employer right away?
Right.
Or what if you don't want to disclose your job search, right?
Exactly.
So that's a good question. So no, that's standard on all of our city applications. So it actually asks you, may we contact this employer, yes or no? And you could answer no, so that, we're not contacting them or disclosing that. And we have other ways to get information, as needed to keep it privately if that was important to you.
Yeah, good question.
Absolutely. All right. So really the focus of what I want to cover with the application where we get the most questions is the question section.
Yes.
So I'm going to go to that section over here, and we're going to just touch on some of the ones that have come up in the past based on candidate feedback to help you hopefully know how to answer these. And if you have questions as I cover this content, please continue to use that chat feature so we can cover them.
And some of these questions might be intimidating. You're like, well, I'm going for this firefighter position. There's a lot of responsibility. There's a lot of public trust. If I include a part of my history, maybe you're not feeling too good about that. But really, the information we're trying to get is just that you're putting accurate information in there. As far as disqualifying things, we'll be talking about that in a little bit, but really the important thing to remember here is to fill it out as accurately as you can. Don't hold anything back.
Yes, we're looking for honesty. That goes back to what you touched on with the values that are important to the city, important to the department. So we don't have something that just bars you from applying, bars you from testing just as a blanket, not as a city for any position.
Okay.
Right. So there's different factors that go into it as far as, say if you had a conviction in your past, how long ago it was, how related to the job, different factors that could be a part of that. So what we're looking for is that you list it on your application. So you're answering the question truthfully, and that it's not a surprise coming up saying a background check later that shows you were maybe trying to hide it earlier.
Right.
That's what we don't want.
So what you might think would be disqualifying isn't necessarily a disqualifying conviction, right?
Right. Versus you not listing it and then it comes up later and it appears you weren't truthful.
And then now you are disqualified.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so some of these questions are pretty basic. These are standard City of Mesa questions on all of our applications, things like asking if you're a current employer related to one. So I'm going to skip down to number 5 because that kind of is what I just touched on. That's the criminal conviction question. So it's pretty long here on here, but basically what it's saying is since 18 years of age as an adult, have you been convicted of any misdemeanors or felonies other than something like a minor traffic offense, right? And so it asks you yes or no. And then in number 6, if it says if you answered yes to that, we need some more information, right? Kind of like what was the charge? where was it, when was it, what was kind of the outcome of it, okay? So we don't need you to write, an entire novel about it, but just make sure you answer the questions on here. So I've done a sample one to hopefully show folks what we mean by that. So I just listed here an example of, say you had a shoplifting charge. Said it was March 2010, it was in Anaheim, California, paid a fine, and the conviction was expunged from a record in 2015. So you can see that answered all the questions here, the details of the offense, the date, where it was, what happened with it. And then it says, failure to list any criminal conviction since your 18th birthday may result in disqualification, as you said, Mike, or dismissal from employment. Okay, so we're just asking, that's very simple. It's one line. You didn't have to put a ton of information, but it answered the question truthfully.
Okay, awesome.
Okay.
So, I mean, here it's a great example, right? Shoplifting, we're like shoplifting. We're going into people's homes. We're, we have the public trust. Of course, that's important to us. And you might be thinking twice, like, well, mine's not expunged. Well, again, if you don't list it, you will be disqualified from the process, right? Because that goes back to the value thing.
Right. You want it listed, there'll be factors considered, this was in this example almost 12 years ago, right? So there's so many factors that go into it. We don't answer and cover every particular type of situation. If anyone was trying to ask that, we're just looking for you to be honest in it, and it'll come up later in the process as part of a review. Okay, so then questions 7 and 8 are similar, but just asking about traffic violations. So it could be something like a speeding ticket, those kind of things in the last 5 years it's asking, okay? So as an example, if I answered yes here, I can list, speeding 10 miles an hour over a few years ago, and I completed traffic school for that. So similar to the previous question, I'm just giving the information, what happened, when was it roughly, and being as candid as possible on that.
So 5 years can be a long time. I know, especially for me, what happened 5 years ago. So, but again, it's not an excuse, right? So if you fail to you missed a speeding ticket or something that happened 4.5 years ago, again, that's not being completely honest, although you weren't meaning to be.
Sure.
So I know we've had some applicants in the past that have actually pulled their driving record, so they did not miss anything.
That's a great suggestion. Yep, absolutely. So you could do that, so you can make sure that's complete on here. The third important question here is number 9, the ignition interlock device. This is a question we ask on all city applications because if driving is a requirement of the job, which it is for the firefighter position, then city policy prohibits you from having this IID device on your vehicle while in that type of position. Okay. So it has to be asked on here, or it's on all of them in case it is a driving position. This one is. So what that means for this is if you do answer yes to this question, then unfortunately you would not be eligible for this testing process. So if the IID is temporary and maybe it's coming off next year, you'd be eligible. We encourage you to apply again in the future. But for now, if you do answer yes to that, you would be screened out because it is a requirement to drive. Right.
And here's something to remember too, is that, again, maybe you won't be qualified for this process, but being compassionate and understanding, we understand that things happen in life, right? It's really like, what are you doing about it? How are you improving from your situation? And as time passes, you're still going to have to list that under your convictions, correct? So, but now you're in a place where you can speak about it and do all that, how you've changed and made things better in your life. Because I mean, we see that happening.
Exactly. All right, and then we've got a couple optional questions about gender, ethnicity for our recruitment statuses and reporting purposes. And then how did you hear about this employment opportunity? So this has nothing to do with your eligibility. You're not going to get bonus points from where you heard about the job, but we would appreciate if you do complete that question honestly. And we have some of our more popular areas like Indeed.com or the city's website, if you found it on one of those. So we have those listed. And then we also have an other button. So if you choose other, there is an optional box that we do ask you to please detail where you heard about this. If you saw it on a different social media, or it may be one of our school recruiting events that we've been going out in the community, put that on here. It does help us so we know where can we better target in the future and reach the biggest audience, because we want to have that diverse applicant pool.
For sure.
Okay. So then moving on to the questions that are specific to the firefighter recruit position. So these questions are what we're going to use to screen the applications. So with it being high volume, potentially up to 1,250 applications, we will use automated screening tools to go through and determine eligibility. Okay. What that means is that we're going to use these questions, and how you answer them is going to determine if you're going to get through the process. Okay.
Oh, okay.
So Mike, you might be over age 18, and if you accidentally, hit no to this question, that means you're going to be ineligible.
Oh,
You don't want that to happen, right?
so I need to pay close attention to these questions here. Okay.
Exactly. And so we actually indicate that in the question, will you be at least 18 years of age or older by Tuesday the 15th, the application opening? And if the answer is no, your application will be ineligible. There's no maximum age for testing, in case anyone was wondering that. So please be careful. There's no opportunity to call after the fact and say you clicked the wrong button.
Right, all right. Put it over here on this part of the application.
And while it is great that you can use different tools, like he said, you can apply from a computer or a tablet or your phone, that's great, but the phone screen's really small.
Yeah.
So that is one of the downside things. If you're doing it, be careful with which choice you're selecting there and double check it, okay?
Good point.
So that's the first question for screening. The second one is what we covered. It says, will you have received a high school diploma or GED by, again, Tuesday the 15th? If the answer is no, your application will be ineligible. So same thing, you have to make sure you answer that correctly. The third required question, again, because firefighter is a driving position, is do you have a valid Class D driver's license? Okay. And so with that, that's because it is a driving position on there. And so you need to answer yes, that you have that. Okay. So with that, you need to make sure that you do answer you have it. So again, what's your takeaway from this, Mike?
You really got to pay close attention to these questions.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right. So pay attention to that. So I'm going to hit yes to demonstrate that right there. And then we have a couple other questions about some other things that have come up in the past. So number 4 is asking about your photo ID and matching your name on it, right? Because we want to make sure if you do get through our process that you are who you say you are and we have the right person taking the testing. So we actually put it on here because this example most people get, right? When you're booking an airline ticket, you are actually having to have your name match on there. And so we want to make sure that we use that example. So if your name is Michael, right? We want you to use Michael, not Mike.
Yes.
Okay. So we're going to hit yes on there. And then the preference points that you talked about a little bit earlier, that question, we're asking about that, and we will explain that in our next session about how to submit documentation if you qualify for that, meaning the veterans or the disability, right? All right, so we'll cover that. And then I think we also touched on this earlier as well, the active duty military status. So that could be something where if you were potentially going to be deployed during an interview process, we could potentially work with you to do something virtually. So we're just trying to ask that information up front. And we also ask if you're coming from out of state. While we can't guarantee any particular scheduling for that and differences, we may try to factor it in if we can. So that's why we're asking that question, if you may have to be flying here, and we try to work with you if we can.
It's part of that being fair, right, in our process, right? If we can accommodate you, then we will try to, but there's no guarantees. The best thing to do is just communicate early. Okay.
And then the last one, again, this is not required at the time of application, your EMT or paramedic, but if you do have it, we would like to know that, for our reporting statistics. So it's just asking if you're currently certified, yes or no. So you won't be disqualified however you answer that question. So once I'm done that, I'm going to hit proceed to review. So this is really important. So you can see all my green check marks over here that shows I completed all the sections, but we encourage you to go back through and make sure they're all correct. Once you submit your application, you can't go back and change anything. So you're probably going to ask me what, Mike?
Well, what if I moved and I wasn't expecting to move and I wanted to go back in there and change my address?
You made a mistake on something?
Yeah.
So while the application period is still open, then you can go ahead and actually submit another one. So you can do a new one while we're still taking them. Once it closes, you can't do that, but at no point can you actually amend one that's already submitted.
But when you open that up, you already have an account, you already fill an application, it'll come up and all your information will already be there.
Right.
You'll just have to correct what you need correct, resubmit. Yeah, exactly. Okay. It's not like you got to start from the very beginning.
Nope, just like anytime once you've had it set up, it's always going to save your information. So you can actually click through each section and look at them one by one. And the other fail safe as well is on the review tab, which is what I'm on here right now. This puts it all on one page. So you can scroll through the entire thing of what I completed here and make sure I got all my schools listed, all my work experience. If I say, oop, I forgot one, I would just click on the edit button in that particular section. You can go ahead and edit that. My EMT certification, my references here at the bottom, and then all my questions. So it's a multi-opportunity for you to check that. And we definitely want to stress, like we just said, check your answers to those screening questions, right?
Right.
So check it while you're doing it and at the end. And once you're sure that everything looks great, you show that you're eligible, then you would hit proceed again. We have our standard City of Mesa statement here that's just reiterating again that be sure that you are truthful and complete in your application. We're looking for honesty in that, and then our employee values. And then I'm going to hit submit there at the bottom, and it says application submitted successfully. So that's how you'll know it went through. It'll immediately show it to you there on the screen. It will also send an email to you for the one that you listed. So that comes automated. And then the third way you can check afterwards is actually clicking over. Once I click out of this application, once you're still logged into the governmentjobs.com website, you click over your name in the right corner there, and then click on applications, and it will show you the applications that you have applied for. So you don't have to worry about where did it go? Did it go through? I'm not sure if it did. You don't have to call anyone. You'll see the email, you'll see it on your screen in real time, and you can see it in your account.
I guess that emphasizes why you need a correct email.
Exactly.
It says if you didn't get that back, then you need to go back in there and make a correction, and maybe your email wasn't current. It also maybe could be like went into your spam folder. So you got to check those different areas too.
Yeah. Happens often, unfortunately, with our system because it is an automated one coming from the government jobs, not from City of Mesa. So we do get that a lot. So if you don't see it, definitely check the spam or junk, add it as an approved sender, and then you'll be sure to get everything throughout.
Right. So there's a few things you can do actually before calling city HR to check on an application. Check those things, right? Go back, make sure your email was correct. It's not in a spam folder, because this is a busy time for us. And like I said, over 1,200 applications. So just take a little bit of time to check. And if you don't find what you're looking for, then that would be an appropriate time to call.
Yeah, absolutely. So that covers the application process. I hope that was helpful. We really tried to build that in to alleviate any anxiety people might have of, if they've never done this before or aren't familiar with government jobs, and to see it. And again, this is going to be available after we're done here, so you can watch this and go through and see all the steps that I just showed. But hopefully that is helpful. I know we're getting close kind of to our closing time here. If we have any other questions, we could look at those. Otherwise, anything else, Mike, that you wanted to cover?
No, I just want to say again, our goal here is just to inform everybody, because we really want everybody to have a good experience, that you're not limited by our process. The ability and how you perform is up to you, but we don't want to be the process to be a limiting factor. So hopefully you got some good information today. All the best of luck. We want you to be successful. Like I said, we want as many applicants as we can get, because we are looking for those very highly qualified people. It's a very important position and important work that we're doing for our community. So we're really looking for those highly qualified candidates.
Absolutely. We thank you all so much for attending tonight. We're really excited. This is our first Facebook live recruiting event. So we appreciate your attention. Hopefully it was helpful. And we will be doing the next one on March 3rd, right?
March 3rd. And we'll have more media stuff coming out, social media, so you'll get word of that, but you can put it in your calendars now.
Now, remember to apply on February 15th in a few days. You can work on your application preparation over the weekend with your account, and then hope to see you back there on March 3rd.
Yeah. Before we go, is there any questions out there? Okay.
All right.
Well, we're very thorough. We try to be very thorough. I guess we accomplished our mission today.
Yeah,
so
we appreciate it very much. And the recording will be available shortly, so that you can watch it later, download it. I think it's going to be on YouTube, and we'll have that posted in many areas so that everyone can use this as a resource, and hope it was helpful for you tonight.
Thanks for joining in, everybody. Be safe. We'll see you soon.